For our friends in Windsor-Essex, we're asking the people there for a little more time and patience.
We've been waiting a long time. The fitness industry has been patiently waiting and accommodating our members as best we can. But
definitely following all the rules. We don't want to close. A lot of the merchants on Erie Street don't want to close, so we've been very strict on trying to educate the people here and to make sure that they're following all the rules.
I wasn't surprised to see the announcement today, and I think at the end of the day, if folks here can continue to act like we're in stage 1, we'll get to stage 3 a lot quicker.
Windsor-Essex, once again, the only region in the entire province to be left behind. It's adding more pressure on local businesses to figure out what they can do to make sure that their doors can stay open or reopen at all. A live look outside right now. You can see those clouds coming across. Some thunderstorm action in Chatham, Kent, and Windsor-Essex today. Large trees down out by Talbot Trail. Here in Windsor, again, that thunderstorm warning is over, but what we just dealt with might be how we end that long weekend that's coming up. Colette Kennedy with all the details tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us once again. Windsor-Essex is watching the rest of Ontario reopen while it's left behind. Premier Ford announced that Toronto and the Peel region will be moving ahead to stage 3 on Friday. Locally, still in stage 2. Not the news gyms and restaurants wanted to hear today. Jacob Barker joining us now live from Erie Street. Jacob, how difficult is this news to take for some of those owners?
Yeah, it's really tough, Chris. As you can see, the patio here on Erie Street is packed, and that goes for a lot of them that line the sidewalks here. But operating in this environment has been really difficult for these businesses. And while they're understanding of the high numbers of COVID-19 cases that we're seeing here in the region, they say they're ready to move on to stage 3. Restaurants around the province are getting their chance to seat people inside again, but not here. Hussein Zahouit opened his restaurant Junkies in June in the midst of the pandemic. With seating for 120 people, he's never got the chance to use it. Right now, his seats are in storage in his garage.
Getting people inside is what I dreamed of when I wanted to open this place, like the presentation of the food and everything else. But right now, everything is in to-go boxes. You know, it's not that fancy. You know, it's still presented pretty good, but you know, I wanted the fancy look, the way it was presented. You know, something different in Windsor that we don't have.
He says business is okay, with a decent-sized patio to serve, deliveries and pickup, but getting people inside his restaurant is something he's ready for.
When they allow us in stage 3, it will improve, but for now we're just, you know, sitting and waiting.
I'm truly embarrassed, you know, for Windsor to be left out, and I don't think it's fair.
Philip Roca owns this restaurant on Erie Street, but is also the president of its Business Improvement Association. He says restaurants have been preparing for this and should get the chance to move along into the next stage as soon as possible.
I think we've done a good job of flattening and the curve. I understand that there is a little bit of a spike going on, but I believe that should have been known. That's going to happen when we're moving into different phases. Yeah, just frustrated for sure.
And while restaurants can at least welcome clients in some fashion, gyms are a different story.
We are eager to get back in the game.
The Shred Shop has been renting their equipment out to members, transitioning their training and nutrition coaching online. But nothing beats having clients inside.
We're missing that one-on-one connection. You know, there's a reason why people come to the gym. It's that social motivation, and it's really hard to ensure proper form, make sure people are staying uninjured, making sure people are staying motivated from a distance. So it puts stress on everyone's health in general, and we're really eager to get everyone back in here and make that the priority.
Interesting to hear from everybody talking about how difficult it is to stay in stage 2 here, but you spoke with the mayor as well. What did he say about our region being held back?
Yeah, Mayor Drew Dilkin says he's not at all surprised about the decision to stay in stage 2. He knows that health officials are responding to those high numbers of COVID-19 here in the region, but he also understands what that means for businesses.
We want them to survive, but we want them to thrive as well. And so I got a great social media message today from a business owner downtown. They're part owner in a restaurant, and the message was, as a business owner, I'm frustrated. As a mother, I'm happy. And that sort of is the conundrum here, is that when you look at it from different perspectives, it affects people in different ways.
Premier Doug Ford was speaking earlier today, and he asked people here in the region to have patience. He also said that he would be coming here to the region again for another visit. We're not sure exactly when that is. He says it'll probably be in a couple of weeks. Chris?
Thanks, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live from those patios tonight. Now, we told you last night about the push for more data out of the health unit by Essex and Kingsville councils, and we also heard from our medical officer of health concerned about the rise in the number of close contacts among the positive cases that the health unit's finding. The CBC's Katie Fraser followed up with Dr. Wajid Ahmed at this morning's briefing, and he has some thoughts on competing messages that are coming out during the pandemic.
Do you think that the messages from public health are getting through to members of the community as well as community leaders here locally?
Well, that has been a challenge, and I think that's what we have been. We are trying to put that message out there, and since from the beginning of this pandemic, our public health messaging focus recognized the limitation of what we know from a scientific basis, and what are some of the evidence-based recommendations that would work or would not work. Opinions and input from many people, as much as we respect their opinion and respect their input, but we have to go back to relying the expertise and the science part of it. And unfortunately, sometimes when this message is there's a competing message which goes against some of the messages or kind of dilutes the importance of public health measures, it creates those challenges. So I really hope that with the education and with the work and with our availability and our responses, people need to know who has the information or who has the expertise to share that information in a manner that would help them understand things rather than create more confusion or distract them from the real issue. The real issue is COVID still exists here, and some of the measure that we need to take, it still is changed. It's not different. We are waiting for some vaccine. We have got some promising results with some of the vaccine trials. We are waiting for it. Until that happens, we need to adopt to a newer lifestyle, which we are adopting most of the time with the physical distancing and face coverings and limiting the gathering. We just need to do that, as tiring and as boring as it sounds. But that's the only measure that we have seen it's been working, and that's the only way we can get it through.
Now, earlier today, Ontario's Ministry of Health also broke down some of the details of how to get out of stage 3. This is what they want. They want to see positive cases that are contacted by the health unit done within 24 hours. Now, Dr. Ahmed says that they're doing that for more than 90% of cases in Windsor-Essex. Now, the other thing that they want to see is hospital capacity. They want to make sure that there's room for people who do get sick if they need to go into an emergency center. Right now, we have 14 people in hospital with COVID-19. 4 of them are in the ICU. And the other thing that they want to see is a consistent decrease in the number of new daily cases, not something that's happening here in Windsor-Essex. We've seen 95 new cases since Monday morning, consistently posting double-digit increases, and the 7-day average, we're seeing that slightly curve up as well. Now, the Ministry of Health also posts active cases, and let's take a look at the top 5 here now. This is the number of people who are positive and self-isolating according to the province. Now, as you can see these numbers popping up on your screen, Windsor-Essex at the very top of that chart there with 355 people who have an active case of COVID-19 in Windsor-Essex, according to the Ministry of Health. And that's been something we've seen consistent with Windsor near the top over the last few days there. And now with Windsor-Essex stuck in stage 2, Hotel de Grace Healthcare is trying to find ways to bring back some of their services safely. Its CEO says that she knows that there are people who are anxious, but in some ways, we're just not ready yet.
The past few weeks have seen us starting to address some of the wait lists, specifically in mental health and addictions. During the height of the pandemic, most of our outpatient and outreach services were suspended while we dealt with the need to lock down and do the initial response. So we're starting to take a look at the wait list and helping some individuals get their lives back on track. We are seeing some rehabilitation needs coming out of those who have survived COVID in the hospital, both individuals who've been very, very sick and those who were sick at home and are seeking some rehab care. So we're really at the very early days of what will potentially be a long recovery journey Surviving the illness is one thing, recovering from it is something else entirely different. I think in many ways, the general public doesn't have a lot of sophistication when it comes to health messaging in the first place. So, I've talked to individuals I know who say, well, this COVID is nothing much more than a flu. And what we're learning from the evidence actually is that unlike the flu, where you have it for a few weeks to maybe a month and then you get on with it and you get better and you go back to work and all those things, COVID can stick with us for a very long time and has long-lasting impacts on our general health and specifically chronic disease. So we've talked about that here at the hospital, actually. How do we start messaging that? And how do we start helping the public to understand that all of this messaging around masking and washing your hands and not coming to work sick, those are important messages. But the other message that's really important is that we have a responsibility to look after ourselves and each other. And if you have an opportunity to not go to the big party, don't go to the party. I'm still recommending to many of our staff that they really don't go out much unless they absolutely have to, and that they're very selective about where they're going.
Justice for Migrant Workers is continuing its call for the province to shut down farm operations until migrant workers are safe from COVID-19. Now, the migrant worker organization has singled out Mootchie Farms in Kingsville in a letter to the Minister of Labour.
Workers were concerned about their well-being of returning to the workplace, and they want assurances from the employer to protect their rights when they return to work. But furthermore, they want the province to implement occupational health and safety protections at that workplace, but also across the industry. And this includes shutting down the workplace to ensure that the concerns of the workers are met.
Rams Group is in favor of mandatory testing for migrant farm workers as long as they don't face reprisals if they test positive. Now, previously, Mootchie Farms had posted photos of workers being tested at their operation on July 2nd, saying that at the time, all tests were negative. CBC has reached out to Labour Minister Monty McNaughton for a response, as well as the Ontario fruit and vegetable growers. Meanwhile, the Ontario greenhouse vegetable growers say that they are cooperating with public health officials, and they say that the shutdown order would have to come from the health unit.
It depends what a shutdown looks like. So if they're just talking about stopping work to do a sanitation process, I think that could be achieved rather quickly and certainly could be feasible. I would highlight that most of our growers have significantly increased their sanitation processes already. There were already existing processes in place for food safety requirements, and those have all been escalated and expanded as a result of COVID.
Now, Mootchie Farms also released a statement. It reads in part that the accusations in the letter sent by Justice for Migrant Workers are false and full of misinformation. We've been very transparent with our team and the public regarding the steps that we've taken to protect our employees, and we're working directly with the public health unit to address all issues related to COVID-19. Now, although Windsor-Essex is staying in stage 2, there are some public spaces that are reopening. Starting today, Sandpoint Beach will be open daily from 1 in the afternoon until 7 in the evening. Those attending will have to physically distance at all times. There are guards and staff on duty to ensure that that happens. Now, as for water quality, the health unit is dealing with a lack of resources due to COVID, so the city has hired a private company to take over for the rest of the year. As well, starting Saturday, the Lakeview Park Marina will start to gradually reopen for boaters. Now, further announcements from the province today on that independent commission that will look into how and why COVID-19 devastated Ontario's long-term care system.
They will conduct as many interviews as necessary. They will require records to be produced, and they will summon as many people as they need to until we get down to the bottom of this.
Now, that commission will be led by the current Associate Chief Justice with the Ontario Superior Court of Justice. He served as lead counsel for the Ontario government in the Walkerton tainted water inquiry. Now, nearly 1,900 residents and 8 staff members have died of COVID-19 in Ontario's long-term care facilities since the outbreak began. The commission is expected to deliver a report into what happened next spring. But the report doesn't have to make recommendations regarding civil or criminal responsibility. A lawyer representing families involved in a class action lawsuit against long-term care homes says his clients want a public inquiry.
Though the commission's a good start, why not why not bring on a public inquiry? There are over 1,800 fatalities here. This is a major event that needs close scrutiny in the form of a public inquiry. Let's not go at this with half measures, although that is a good start. Let's move forward to the public inquiry now.
The Ontario Long-Term Care Association saying today that it is encouraged with the Commission and that it will look at what it calls a broad range of long-standing and systemic challenges in the industry. Now, MP Brian Massey is calling on the federal government to shift funding from the We Charity to the federal student summer program. Massey says that if the government had put just 2/3 of the money awarded to We to the jobs program instead, all the requests that MPs get for funding could be met.
The Prime Minister can fix this tomorrow. He could fix it tomorrow at the table. In his statements, he could say, we made a mistake. I have ethics breaches that need to investigate him. But by the way, we'll use the public service tool to get more students employment right now and more charities supports they need right now by funding this program.
Now, he says that they received 484 requests for funding for student jobs this year, but could only approve 300 of them. CBC News has reached out to the minister responsible for the program and have not yet heard back. Now, the day before he's set to appear at the House Finance Committee, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is coming under renewed fire from his political opponents. Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says that the government's deal with We organization to run a student volunteer program was meant to help Trudeau's friends, not students. The Conservatives are calling for a separate inquiry into We for covering Trudeau family expenses.
He kept hidden the fact that his family received over $300,000 in speaking fees. And then when that revelation came out, I asked point blank in the House of Commons, what other expenses had his family received? And he kept that hidden until yesterday when we got a grudging and even confusing answer from the Kielburger brothers. What else is he hiding in this affair? He should come tomorrow and tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
The charity paid about $200,000 in expenses for members of the Prime Minister's family. That's in addition to around $300,000 in speaking fees. The Conservatives say that We was trying to buy political influence. CBC News has learned that Ontario's Education Minister will unveil the province's plans for the upcoming school year tomorrow. But today, parents and teachers rallied outside a number of NPP offices demanding a fully funded, safe return to school in September.
The government should have been on this months ago, and that we should have had the proper funding so that parents and teachers and support staff knew what the plan was and we could all feel comfortable.
We need more. We need more from this government. Otherwise, we're putting the workers and students and all of their families at grave risk.
Now, this group says they want kids to go back to 5-day school weeks, but with proper safety measures in place. They say that the government has not put enough money towards safely reopening schools, and they want to see more funding for additional staffing and PPE, adding that a regular schedule is vital to the well-being and mental health of children. We take a live look outside there at the city's cores. Those clouds starting to shift over the other ways. And that heat wave that we were experiencing for the last little bit broke a little last night with the rain, a bit more today. And Colette says that the long weekend might be manageable. We'll get the full forecast from her next. And joining us now for a look at the forecast is Colette Kennedy. Colette, you kind of nailed it this week. There's been times of relief, there's been times of just that hot, humid conditions, and then days like today where rain, those thunderstorms keep popping up every once in a while.
That's right, Chris. A few strong storms that we've had. We've seen some severe thunderstorm warnings at times, things trying to calm down, but still a little bit of activity out there. And, you know, it's been quite the month. Obviously a very hot month, probably going down on record as perhaps the hottest, but we'll be watching for that once we get all the details in and this month comes to an end. But done with 30-degree days for this month. I know there's only a few days left anyway, but we probably are, and we'll keep that count at about 15 in terms of where we got comfortable temps now for the next couple of days in terms of closer to seasonal or a little below. And I'll give you a look at the holiday weekend forecast here too coming up. Right now those temperatures are a little more comfortable. Of course, some of the activity that's been rolling through, it keeps them down a little bit. 26, 25, or 25, pardon me, Chatham-Kent through that region. We do have some humidity, so the humidex values there. You can see some of those storms that have been rolling through over the last couple of hours, and so we still have some of that activity and some of these heavier downpours. But also with some of these storms, what we've been seeing are the wind gusts. So some of those wind gusts have been exceeding 90 kilometers an hour, something to watch for. And as well, these cells have been tracking pretty quickly. So at times they've been moving over 60 kilometers an hour, tracking to the east. So they're moving at a good clip too, but you just have to watch out for some of those wind gusts. As I say, look out for power outages associated with them too. Now, as we go towards the overnight hours, yeah, everything kind of dries out, calms down, and that is good for us. Some isolated showers tomorrow, that possibility, not so much for us. We'll see it in a few other areas, but really I think we're going to be drying out, and we're going to have a couple of days with some nice sunshine. It's as we get a little deeper into the holiday weekend, that's when we're going to get into some more widespread showers, especially as we go into Sunday, and then some thunderstorm activity as we head towards Monday. It doesn't mean you won't be able to make some plans in there. You'll just have to be a little bit careful about it. So overnight tonight, we're looking at partly cloudy to clear conditions as things are winding down. 17 degrees tomorrow afternoon, up to about 27, 28 degrees. So seasonal, or if anything, a little bit below, getting into kind of a mix of sun and cloud. Still some humidex or some humidity in there, so a humidex value in the low 30s of about 32. And then towards Friday, there's that sunshine of 27 after we get through Thursday. Saturday, sunny as well, and 28. And then, yeah, it's unfortunate that it has to come as we're going into the civic holiday, but we will see that next system coming in. And look at the temperature for Monday. We're actually going to see things really cooling down. It's going to take some getting used to see a daytime high only in the mid-20s. Somewhat unusual after the month that we've seen with July.
No, absolutely. But considering everything we've gone through, you know, there's relative relief, right? Like the idea of sometimes it's okay for the cool weather to slide its way through.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a breather. That is okay.
No, absolutely. Thanks for this, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're going to want to stick around. The story behind this bear is just absolutely heartwarming. Stolen, returned, but there's a voice inside of that bear that means a lot more than what it might look like on first appearance. That's next. Muslim pilgrims have started arriving in Mecca for the Hajj, but the annual Islamic pilgrimage looks very different this year. Now, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Saudi government has banned pilgrims from outside the country. Thousands of people are taking part this year rather than millions. They're wearing masks, traveling in small groups, and keeping distance from one another. Some just fantastic news for a Vancouver woman whose teddy bear was stolen last Friday. The toy contains an audio message from the woman's late mother, and it's now back in the arms of its owner.
I'm a bit of a pessimist, and though I tried to be optimistic, I kind of counted it as a loss, in all honesty. I didn't think she would come back, but she did. She did, so I guess I was proven wrong.
Two Good Samaritans returned the bear last night. Now, the bear disappeared from outside an apartment building that she was moving into. Now, last week, she took to social media pleading for its return. And the viral post caught the attention of two celebrities, each offering a $5,000 reward for the bear's return. Her mother died of cancer last year. It's nice to know that they were able to get that back to the rightful owner. It's 6:29 p.m. That's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. You can find more stories online if you go to cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. If you look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. A quick look at the Ambassador Bridge as we leave you tonight. Power and Politics is up next. It'll already be in progress. Thanks for watching. Have a good evening.